Welcome to the UK Travel Planning Podcast. Your host is the founder of the UK Travel Planning website, Tracy Collins. In this podcast, Tracy shares destination guides, travel tips, and itinerary ideas, as well as interviews with a variety of guests who share their knowledge and experience of UK travel to help you plan your perfect UK vacation. Join us as we explore the UK from cosmopolitan cities to quaint villages, from historic castles to beautiful islands, and from the picturesque countryside to seaside towns.
Hello and welcome to episode 39 of the UK Travel Planning Podcast. In this episode, I chat with Marc of Northumberland Tours, who shares some of his favourite destinations and experiences in Northumberland. This includes castles, islands, walks, and of course Hadrian's Wall. This is the area of the UK that I actually come from, so it was great to talk to Marc, and I started the podcast off by asking Marc to introduce himself.
I'm originally from South Tyneside, which is just south of Northumberland, and moved down to London at an early age with my parents, and basically grew up in Chiswick, but I still have a lot of family in the northeast. It was where I always considered home because every holiday I got from school when I was in London, I would be in the northeast, I'd be exploring. And it was, even though I was a Londoner, I still loved Newcastle, Northumberland. So I went into the army at a young age and I served for 5 years. Mm-hmm. Came out and I became a driver trainer for UPS, basically teaching drivers how to drive, advanced driving, and how to do the job. I've done that for 16 years. And London had changed a lot over the years, and I decided I'd come back to where I loved, and then I moved back to South Tyneside originally. And then I met my wife, a Northumberland girl, and lived here ever since and not looked back. But I wanted more of Northumberland, and I wanted to see, and you see so many snippets on TV and you read so much, and I knew some of the history because my granddad used to like tell stories, as granddads do.
Yeah.
My stepson's autistic, and I kind of look into ways to help him develop. I decided to start a small business working with young men with autism. Mm-hmm. Which is a challenging job, but it's very rewarding. But you do have to think outside the box.
Yep.
Basically, it was trying to find something to do different every day to keep them stimulated, to keep them involved, and help them develop. And basically, Northumberland opened the door for that. I mean, the places we go, the places we've seen, the things that most people generally don't know about, we've experienced together.
Yep.
We do kayaking, coast steering, and we it's like I say, we found parts of Northumberland that you wouldn't find in any books. You'd probably see on TV some of them because obviously it's quite a popular place for the TV.
Yeah.
And then I've done that for a lot of years now, and it's just, well, I think it's time to. I still am involved with young autistic men because I still have a passion for helping them develop and turn into productive young men.
Yeah.
But I want to share Northumberland, and it's just with the places we go, I'd like to share it with other people as well.
Yeah.
People, if you say Northumberland, they'll know Alnwick Castle because of Harry Potter or various TV programs. Yep. And it's just like, well, Northumberland's so much more than that. And it's a beautiful place to come to. And that's basically why I started doing the tours.
Yeah.
And here we are.
That's great. And obviously, I'm from Northumberland originally. So I was born and raised in Seaton Delaval, which is on the coast in Northumberland. And as I'm always very keen to promote Northumberland because I don't like the term hidden gem because it kind of is. Northumberland is that really, even for British people, it's not necessarily that well known that people will go there on holiday. I mean, actually, I remember quite a few Scottish people coming to visit, actually. But for English people, not so much. I think it's become more popular in recent years, but certainly for people from overseas. I know when I talk to other Australians or Americans, and I kind of talk about Northumberland, let's just say a couple of things may come up. Alnwick comes up quite often because of its connection with Harry Potter. Sometimes the Vera TV show comes up because obviously that's filmed on the northeast coast as well. So a lot of those places come up, but and obviously maybe sometimes Hadrian's Wall gets mentioned. But I kind of go, Northumberland has got so much history, so much beauty. It's a beautiful county with the landscapes, the coastal route is fantastic to drive along, the castles, the islands, Holy Island of Lindisfarne. Until I was in my 30s, I just thought it was actually called Holy Island because that's what my grandmother called it. And then I was like, is that the same as Lindisfarne?
yeah.
And the history. Obviously, I come from coal miners. My on one side, but my grandfather was a coal miner. His family originally came from Cornwall, actually from the tin mines. But so there's just so much history. There's so much beauty in Northumberland itself. So I know my favourite things to do when I come up is I always go to drive the coastal route because I absolutely love that route. And it's somewhere I used to go with my dad when I was a kid, to see houses and Bamburgh Castle and then on to Holy Island. Mark, I'd love to know some of the places that you really enjoy and that you really, that are your favourite places in Northumberland.
I love the coastal route as well. I mean, if you didn't know Northumberland, you'd probably get off your train or coach, probably at Alnwick. And by the time you get to Alnwick, you've missed Amble, you've missed Allenmouth, you've missed Allenmouth's a little village. Absolute, it's a picture, it's beautiful. You've missed Warkworth Castle, which is still owned by the Percy family, along with Alnwick. That's still the Percy family.
Yep.
And you've got, I'd say from Morpeth, ideally, all the way to Bamburgh, you've got 4 castles. You've got hikes. You've got Rumbling Cairn. It's a little cove that not a lot of people know about. It's the Earl Grey. He owns Cragside.
Yep.
Cragside, 70,000 acres, first hydroelectric powered building in the world. But he had his summer house down overlooking Rumbling Cairn, and it's called the Bath House.
Right.
And it's on the edge of a cliff, overlooking it. And you don't get many tourists there, but it's absolutely beautiful. And from there, you can walk up to Craster and walk along to Dunstanburgh, which is probably about a 3-hour round trip. Castles, it's spectacular where it is because its main defence is the cliffs. But it's fell into ruin. It was used in the Second World War, refortified against the Germans. And then you can carry on, obviously, Alnwick, Bamburgh, but Bamburgh is the jewel in my eye. It's the oldest castle in Northumberland. If you're standing at Bamburgh, you can see Holy Islands from the castle. It was originally called Bebbanburg.
Yep.
When the Vikings tried to take it after they ransacked Holy Islands, they never managed to capture Bamburgh. They did sack it, but it's just such an amazing castle. And everybody I've ever taken there, and everybody who's been there, we've got a guy over here called Robson Green.
Yeah,
he's just done a series, and he was Bamburgh, and it's awe-inspiring. It's called the Windsor of the North. It's got a museum in there with artifacts from World War II and big, huge rooms with the old, just everything you'd imagine to see in a castle. It ticks all the boxes. You can see the Farne Islands, which you can get a boat over to. It's just, it really is amazing. you know.
Oh, and that's actually, because I love Bamborough, and I remember going even when I was at school. It was kind of a school trip that we go up to Bamborough Castle. One thing I haven't done is actually go out to the Farne Islands. I'd like to go and see the puffins and see the birds on the Farne Islands. That's something that has been kind of on my list for quite a while. Even when I was a child, it was something that, you'd see the islands but never get to them. That was always the thing. But yeah, so that would be something. So have you taken the boat out there, Marc? Or
Yeah,
is it,
it's one of the largest colonies of seabirds in Europe. The trips normally last about 2 hours.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get to see dolphins. You generally see seals. It's when you're actually out on the boat, you can see Bamborough, Dunstanburgh, Lindisfarne Castle. It's for somebody who knows the coastline so well. Doing a boat trip it's still kind of awe-inspiring for me because I see it from land.
yes.
So when I see it from the sea, it's completely different, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, the trips last 2 hours. You can do extended ones that do go to Holy Island as well. But obviously in the northeast and in Northumberland, the tide does affect your day if you are planning to be on the water.
Yeah.
I mean, you could sail from Amble. They do a puffin tour out to Coquette Island, where you'll always see seals, lots of birds. Like I say, for me, being on the water is completely different because I get a different perspective. But yeah, well worth a trip. Well worth a trip. Instead of saying Bamborough, I should have said Lindisfarne Castle is my favourite because I was married there. But
yes.
the wife's not in the room, so I still get away with it.
It's your second favourite then, is it?
Yeah.
Obviously, Lindisfarne, Holy Island of Lindisfarne, comes up quite a lot as well. And I have to tell people all the time, really, if you really want to go to Holy Island, you've got to check the tides because it's a tidal island, and you don't want to get stuck.
It's a must.
Yeah.
It is a must. It'll be a very long night if you do get stranded there because the hotels are generally fully booked.
Yes, exactly.
But it's definitely worth a trip. You've got the Priory where the Vikings did attack. Lots of history there. It was St. Aidan. You've got St. Cuthbert's Cave about 5 miles away where the monks carried St. Aidan's relics to hide them from the Vikings. But that was the first place the Vikings landed in the UK was on Holy Island.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. In 793.
Wow.
Lots of history. They've just opened a museum. It's new for this year. They've just opened a museum on Holy Island as well because there was an archaeological dig there last year.
Yeah.
The back end of last year. And they've got what they found out for display on there as well. But yeah, definitely worth a trip.
Yeah.
But like you say, check the
tides.
The tides is a must.
Yeah, absolutely. And every time I come home, because obviously I'm from Northumberland, and I usually go back and stay with my sister, and that's always an absolute must. I have to go over to Holy Island. I think it just reminds me so much of my grandparents and just trips when I was a child, and it's so beautiful to go there as well. It's an absolute.
Oh, totally.
And so my father was actually from Wallsend, which obviously it kind of tells the names in it. It was the end of the wall. So the end of Hadrian's Wall. Yeah,
definitely. There is a museum there as well. Segdinium, I think it's called.
Yep, Segdinium.
Yeah, that's it. Once you go across the Tyne, I think you're very rich in history with Romans.
I love Vindolanda. I think Vindolanda is absolutely fantastic. And it's actually not on the wall because it was a fort that supplied the soldiers that were based on Hadrian's Wall, but it's not very far.
No.
And as you walk, as you drive actually down to Vindolanda, you get a view of Sycamore Gap, which is very famous, a very famous sycamore tree, which is in the gap in the kind of the hills.
Yeah.
And then you can go and park at Steel car park and walk, and I didn't do the walk last year. I've got wonderful pictures of my husband and sister doing the walk, but I was like, I'll just watch you.
Yeah,
but that's a great place to go in.
Yep, Steelvig. If the Steelvig car park to the wall, probably you could do a round trip in about an hour from the car park to Sycamore Gap.
Yeah,
depending how long you wanted to stay and photograph the tree and the scenery around you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Housesteads as well. Housesteads is the most complete Roman fort on the whole 73 mile of the wall.
Yep.
It is a popular place to visit.
I think Housestead will be on my itinerary this summer when I'm over. Last year I went to Vindolanda, which I absolutely loved, and actually took my sister there for the first time. And I think that's sometimes one of those things, isn't it? When you grow up in an area, you kind of take it all for granted. What blew me away about when I went to Vindolanda was just the amount of shoes. There's so many shoes.
Yeah, it's well known. It's well known for its shoes.
Yeah, it just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shoes. It was crazy. But fantastic. We had a really, really good day out there. So, if you want to do that kind of experience the wall, that's a great place to go and learn as well. Like the guide we had was so knowledgeable, and when we went into Vindolanda, so that was brilliant. Absolutely, really good. So obviously, I was kind of thinking about the most popular places because there's so much to do in Northumberland.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I was kind of thinking that if you've got an interest in walks, what would you do?
I'd say the walk from Craster to Dunstable Castle is you park in Craster, which is a little harbour, a little fishing harbour.
Yep.
And it's a 1.5 mile walk to Dunstable along the coastline, and then a walk around the castle. It's a beautiful walk. The castle's impressive, but it depends. I always say to people booking a tour, I have to ask the question, which I don't like asking, is, are you physically fit?
Oh yeah,
because I can take you to. We have a number of waterfalls, Linhope Spout, Cramell Lynn. There are a lot, but they're in the Cheviots, which, if you don't know, is like Cumberland's sort of like little mountain range.
Yeah.
And I can be very physical, and the weather can change at a click of the hand.
Yeah.
I got caught out once, and I left home and went up. I was going to Linhope Spout, and it's probably a 3 to 4 mile round trip. Linhope Spout's a waterfall with a plunge pool at the bottom. A lot of people swim there, which, if that's your cup of tea, it's great. Not without a wetsuit for me. But I left here and it was shining, and as soon as I got into the mountains, there was a blizzard.
Wow!
And it was an eye opener. It was an eye opener for me, and I know Northumberland really well.
Yeah.
But for walks, you can't beat it. You go through the Ingram Valley into the Breamish Valley. That's basically a big valley following the river, and then up to Linhope Spout. It's amazing, So lots of walks, lots of different things, but everything dependent on your capabilities, really.
Walks along the coast. You've got, if you're more experienced hiker, there's certainly some brilliant and very famous. I mean, the hike in the Northumberland coastal route is quite a famous walk that you can do. And obviously, so walkers got loads of things to do. If you're interested in history, we've already kind of mentioned it, but Northumberland's got more castles than any other county in England.
I think Bamborough's over 9 square acres, and the walk around the castle is they were doing an archaeological dig there not last year, the year before, and where the sand dunes are now, they discovered loads. It used to be a burial site for the castle.
Oh wow!
But that's a good there because you can do Embleton Beach all the way up. You can walk castle to castle with Dunstanburgh to Bamburgh. It's It's like I say, it really does depend on your fitness.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you don't want to, if you want to drive, obviously you can book with yourself, Marc, and do a tour. If somebody wants to book a tour with you, Marc, how does that look? How do you kind of talk to them and then design it around what their interests are?
The best way to do it would be to have a rough idea of what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
If you wanted castles, if you wanted walks, or if you wanted both, or if you wanted Hadrian's Wall, or just a slice of everything, let me know. I'll have a look at it. I'll work it out, and then I'll get back in touch with you, and you tell me if that's what you want. But everything is, as long as we can fit it in a day, we can do it.
Yeah.
But if we can't, obviously, I'll be very clear that, well, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah, and I think that's good because have to be realistic because it's a huge county and there's so much to do, and you really have to kind of pick what you're interested in. So that's absolutely true. So obviously, if people go out on a tour with you, it's great because they can sit back and enjoy the scenery because you're doing the drive and taking them around. So, is there specific places that you prefer to pick people up at? Is it the train stations? I guess that would be more common at train stations.
I think if you wanted to do the coastal route, the best option is Morpeth train station, because basically it's a lovely little town, and it's a good place to start because the next stop would be Alnwick.
Yeah.
On the railway, and by the time you've done that, you've missed Amble, you've missed Warkworth Castle. So if you want to do the coastal, I would say Morpeth. If you wanted to do Hadrian's Wall, depending how you want to do it, because in Newcastle we have a museum called the Hancock, and they have some of the best collections of Roman artifacts in the country. So if that was your interest, I would start there. But if you wanted to get straight to the wall, as the one on Hadrian's Wall we've just organised, we're starting from Hexham, which is basically 10 minutes from the wall. So it's Hexham straight on site, really. So basically Morpeth Central Station or Hexham, if you want to do the wall, would be ideal.
Good. And so if people want to book a tour with you, Marc, how do they? I mean, obviously, I'll put links to your Facebook group in the show notes at the end anyway, so people will be able to, but it's just worth kind of also just sort of going through how people can get in touch with you.
Facebook is ideal. Email, my phone number is on there, but I wouldn't bring that internationally, so probably Facebook. Excuse me, Facebook or email would be ideal.
Perfect, and I will share that.
Yeah, a rough idea of what you would like to do. Let me have a look at it, and then I will get in touch with you and let you know if it would or it wouldn't work, or how we could change things, or if there was anything specific I could meet your needs to get it done.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. And is there a maximum number of people that you can take out on a tour, Marc?
Four is four. Yeah.
I'll be putting all information that everything we talked about will go in the show notes for today's episode. So we'll make sure that we'll have, links to your Facebook page and your email, Marc, so people can do that. There's one question I always ask, and this is a funny one actually for me talking about Northumberland. I always ask at the end of every episode.
Okay.
And it's what would be the one tip you would give to anybody planning a trip to Northumberland for the first time?
Bring waterproofs and some walking boots.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Pack your shorts and t-shirt, but make sure you've got waterproofs in your bag.
I have to say, I do. I love Northumberland. I love the Northeast, but I really don't miss the weather, I have to say. It's quite windy, but
yeah.
I remember telling my husband actually before we went up, and even in the summer when it's really warm, you can have a sea fret come, which then just everything's really cold.
Yeah.
And people don't believe it until you have the sea fret, and then it's like, yes, it's freezing cold, which comes in.
Yeah.
Comes in from the sea.
I was down at the Priory yesterday. North Shields.
Yep.
And there was a sea fret. Then we left here. It was lovely. Got down there and it was bitter.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was really, really fresh. But then again, last year we had a really hot summer, and the beaches were, in Northumberland, the beaches they're not. You can move. They're never. Even though they're busy, they're never full.
Yeah.
Even on beautiful days. When you're heading to Northumberland, more so to the south, like Long Sands, at North Shields and all that. But when you're heading up to Bamborough, Embleton, the beaches are busy, but they're still kind of bare, if you know what I mean. They're not even,
Absolutely. I've got video, actually. I just put something together for my Instagram the other day, and I've got video from, because I walked over the dunes from Bamborough Castle, and you just got the beautiful beach. And, it was a lovely, warm July summer's day. And there was hardly anybody on, really, compared to, beaches you expect. And it was lovely. And you could see towards Holy Island, and you could see the Farne Islands, the castle behind you. Absolutely beautiful. So I was like, oh, yes, I'm really looking forward to being back and get back to, I guess, where I come from, and practicing my Geordie accent a little bit more when I get back. Because I keep getting told I sound very posh for a Geordie, but I was born and brought up in Northumberland, so.
Yeah. Well, I don't need to tell you to make sure you've got your waterproof thing.
No. No, I know that one. Yeah. Make sure you've got your layers, because you need it. Definitely.
100%.
So I just want to say, Marc, thanks so much for being on the podcast today and chatting about Northumberland. It's always a pleasure to talk about Northumberland, and it was great. It's been great to chat to you and to talk about your tours. And obviously, people get in touch with Marc if you want to see Northumberland. Marc knows it really well. He can tailor make. He'll have a chat with you and see what works for you and what he can do. And it'll be brilliant. Have a really good time. Good day out.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marc.
Thank you. We'll see you all soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Once again, huge thank you to Marc for coming onto the podcast to talk all about Northumberland. It's lovely to talk about my home county. It brings back a lot of memories of my childhood and growing up there. And obviously, I'm always happy to talk about promoting such a beautiful, beautiful county. You can find links to all the places that we talked about in today's episode, and also to Marc's company, Northumberland Tours. So you can book with Marc at uktravelplanning.com/episode 39. There are also lots of other resources to help you plan your trip to Northumberland on the website too. But for this week, that just leaves me to say to everybody, happy UK travel planning.